Number 10, the Mandela effect. You remember it, right? The cartoon bears, the popular cereal, even a famous movie line. You are 100% certain it was a certain way. But then you look it up and reality splinters. It was never Berenstain Bears. It was Berenstain. Darth Vader never said, "Luke, I am your father." And the Monopoly Man doesn't have a monocle. This collective misremembering is so common it has its own name, the Mandela effect. A term coined after thousands of people swore they remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison. The creepy truth is, your memory isn't a perfect video recording of your life. It's more like a Wikipedia page that anyone, including your subconscious, can edit. Every time you retrieve a memory, you're not pulling it from a hard drive. You're rebuilding it from scratch. And every time you rebuild it, you open it up for little edits and changes, like a game of telephone with your past. Our brains are constantly trying to fill in the blanks to make a coherent story, and sometimes they just get it hilariously and collectively wrong. Number 9, the misinformation effect. The best way to mess with a memory isn't to hit your head, it's to simply ask a leading question. This is the misinformation effect, a terrifying little quirk of your brain that proves your memories can be manipulated with alarming ease. In a classic psychology experiment, people were shown a video of a car crash. Then they were asked a single question. How fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? Other people were asked, how fast were the cars going when they hit each other? The people who heard the word smashed recalled the cars going much faster and even remembered seeing broken glass that wasn't there. Your memory isn't just about what happened. It's also about what you were told about what happened. This is why eyewitness testimony, which we've always been told is the gold standard of evidence, is actually wildly unreliable. The simple act of a police officer asking, "Did you see the blue car speed away?" can change your memory to include a detail that never existed, completely altering your personal truth. Your brain is so desperate to be helpful that it'll just make stuff up on the spot. Number 8, the suggestibility of memories. Have you ever tried to remember a childhood event only to have a family member chime in and remind you of a detail that you now vividly recall, even if you're not sure it ever happened? That's the power of suggestibility. The human brain, in its relentless quest to make sense of the past, is incredibly vulnerable to outside influence. In fact, it's one of the easiest ways to create entirely false memories. Researchers have been able to implant memories in people's minds by simply talking about a fake event as if it were real. Over time, the person can become so convinced of the story's authenticity that they start adding their own personal details, like what they were wearing or who else was there. Your brain, in its desperate attempt to please, will build an entire memory from a single suggestion. This isn't just some weird party trick either. It's a huge problem in legal and therapeutic settings where a well-meaning interviewer could unintentionally plant a false memory, leading to disastrous consequences. Your mind isn't just a hard drive waiting to be filled. It's a canvas waiting for a bad painter. Number 7, the recency and primacy effect. Think about a list of things you need to buy at the grocery store. Without writing them down, you'll probably remember the first few items and the last few items pretty well, but the ones in the middle will get fuzzy. This is the recency and primacy effect, a simple but profound rule of your short-term memory. Your brain gives special attention to information it receives at the beginning, primacy, and the end, recency, of an experience. The stuff in the middle? Not so much. It's why people remember the opening and closing scenes of a movie more vividly than the middle act. It's also why a good speech starts with a bang and ends with a powerful conclusion. Your brain has a short attention span, and it's always prioritizing new information and the information it just received. The middle part of your day, the middle part of a book, the middle part of a conversation, it's all just a blur. Number 6, source amnesia. You remember a fact. You know it's true, but you have no idea where you learned it. Was it a TV show? A book? Did a friend tell you? The information is in your brain, but the source, the context of how you acquired it, is completely gone. This is source amnesia, and it's a terrifying peek into how fragile your memory is. Your brain is a brilliant archivist of information, but it's a terrible librarian when it comes to keeping track of where it put the books. We constantly experience this with news and social media. You might remember a headline or a shocking fact from a questionable source, but over time, your brain detaches the information from its unreliable origin. It's why fake news spreads so easily. Once the lie is in your head, your brain treats it as a legitimate piece of data, regardless of its origin. Your brain doesn't bother to keep the citation, it just keeps the quote. This can lead to some seriously embarrassing moments, like when you tell your friend a wild story, only for them to remind you that you actually told them that story last week. Number 5, confabulation. When a person with a memory problem invents a story to fill in the gaps, it's called confabulation. It's not the same as lying. The person genuinely believes the invented story is true. Their brain has a hole in its memory, and rather than admitting it doesn't know, it simply creates a believable filler to make the narrative whole. Think of your brain as a brilliant but slightly insecure improv actor. It's on a stage, and it has to deliver a performance. When it forgets its lines, it doesn't stop and say, "I forgot my line." Instead, it makes up a new line that sounds plausible, and it sells it with absolute conviction. The scary part is that we all do this on a smaller, more common scale. We reconstruct our memories based on what we think should have happened, not what actually happened. Your brain doesn't like a messy story, and it will tidy up your past, whether you like it or not. The more you remember the embellished story, the more you ingrain it as your new truth. Number 4, the peak end rule. Think about your last vacation. What do you remember most? You probably recall the single best moment, like seeing the Grand Canyon for the first time, and how the trip ended, maybe a stressful flight home. What you probably don't remember as well is the middle of the trip, the boring car ride, or the average meal you had on day 4. This is the peak end rule, a cognitive bias that says your brain judges an experience almost entirely on 2 things: how it felt at its most intense moment, the peak, and how it felt at the end. The duration of the event, whether it was a short vacation or a year-long project, has surprisingly little impact on your memory of it. This is why a painful dental procedure can be remembered as not so bad if the dentist gives you a kind word at the end, or why a great movie can be ruined by a terrible ending. Your brain is a lazy accountant. It doesn't tally up the entire experience. It just takes a quick look at the highest point and the last point and calls it a day. Number 3, the forgetting curve. You probably remember exactly what you ate for lunch yesterday, but can you remember what you ate on the 10th of last month? Probably not. The reason is the forgetting curve, a brilliant but cruel piece of human psychology that demonstrates how quickly our memories fade over time. The curve shows that right after you learn something new, you'll start to forget it very rapidly. After a day, you might have forgotten half of it. After a week, you might only remember a small fraction. Your brain is essentially a ruthless bouncer at a club, and it only lets the VIP memories stay inside for very long. The only way to combat the forgetting curve is with repetition, which is why teachers constantly say, "Review your notes." When you revisit a piece of information, you tell your brain, "Hey, this is important," and it moves that memory to a more permanent location. If you don't use it, you absolutely lose it. Number 2, the rosy retrospection effect. Have you ever looked back on a past event, a tough camping trip, a terrible first date, or a stressful work project, and somehow it seems better? This is the rosy retrospection effect, a cognitive bias where we tend to remember past experiences more favorably than they actually were at the time. Your brain is a natural-born spin doctor. It loves to polish the rough edges of your past and conveniently forgets all the minor annoyances, frustrations, and awkward moments. That camping trip wasn't a miserable week of bug bites and rain. It was a rustic adventure. That terrible date wasn't a nightmare. It was a hilarious story. Your brain wants to see your life as a great narrative, and it's constantly editing your memories to make you the hero of that story. This is a crucial survival mechanism. Without it, you'd never go on a second date or try a new activity again. You'd be paralyzed by the fear of past discomfort. So, your brain just lies to you, and it's so convincing that you happily buy into the lie every time. Number 1, the eyewitness misidentification. You're in a police lineup. You see a face. You are absolutely, positively certain that this is the person who committed the crime. You swear on your life that it's them. But you're wrong. Eyewitness misidentification is the leading cause of wrongful convictions. And the terrifying truth is that it's a direct result of how our memory works. Your brain isn't a security camera, it's a sketch artist. When you see a person, you don't record every detail. You create a general impression, a face based on a few key features. Over time, that impression gets blurred and distorted, especially when you are stressed or in a state of panic. Then, when you're asked to identify the person, your brain grabs the closest match it can find and fills in the rest of the details with its own imagination. Your brain wants to be right, and it will pick a face from a lineup and then retroactively create the memory of that person being at the crime scene. It will lie to you, to the police, and to the jury, all because it wants to be correct. It's the ultimate mic drop from your memory. It just makes stuff up and has the audacity to demand you believe it.